the Vivace here of the grades 11 and 12 Symphonic Band Etudes for the GMEA 2020-2021 All-State Band Etudes. We worked on the waltz a little earlier today, and when I took a look at this Vivace, I thought 168, wow, I better turn my metronome on, and sure enough, I was like, wow, that is so fast, so fast. So what I did to start practicing this was not start at 168. If I start too fast too soon, I can't think of my phrasing and I can't think of where my X's are going to go. And if I start thinking of those from the very beginning, it's only going to help me blow my air through the phrases. And if I have good air support and good air blowing great direction through my music, so I have great forward momentum and greatly shaped phrases, then the technical stuff will usually fall a little bit easier. If we are practicing absent of the musicality, it's never going to work out as well as it could. So I always put music first. Number one, musicality. So I'll walk you through all of my markings and things. I have a fair amount marked up in my part, but I thought we'd start with, put my metronome on here. And I'm going to try to play through this one. I have to admit, 168 is a push for me. I would be much more comfortable like in the 150s or even 160, just like shade off that 168 makes me feel a lot more comfortable. And I would suggest that when you go into your audition situation, take a tempo that's just slightly under what you've practiced. So, under duress and stress, we tend to, our adrenaline is pumping a little bit, and so we tend to go a little faster. So sort of take a notch off the metronome so you're able to play it in control and really musically. So let's see what we can do here. That was okay. There were some moments where I really did feel like this was not in my control. Like I did not have total control over my fingers and what I was trying to do musically. So if I were going into the audition, I would definitely take it a little bit slower. If you play very cleanly and very musically at a slightly slower tempo, in my opinion, it sounds more impressive than just like going fast and it being a big old mess. So that's sort of my first little nugget of advice here. So let's take a look at the music and let me walk through. There's a lot. This video might be a little bit longer than the last one. So let's just first look at my X's. So it's important to find some really good shape in our phrases here through all of this noodly fast note stuff. And my first X, as we can see, is in measure 3 on that A flat, high A flat half note. And so, and then my G in the next measure is a slightly smaller X because I'm going to make a little shape that's not called for or indicated by the composer just to keep it interesting. And then the second time in measure 5, similar, so I'm going to go, so I have an X on the F, and then I'm actually going to go even bigger to the next G. So instead of tapering back like I did the first time, I'm going to play that out and end this phrase a little bit stronger than the first one. Then we scale back to our mezzo forte, and similar shape here. I'm going to go, I have an X on my A flat in measure 11, but since that C is pretty exciting in the next measure. I get a bigger X there, so again, I'm playing the end of that phrase out rather than tapering. Then we have some little pieces with the pickup to 11, 12, 13, so bum, ba da 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 da, dee da da da, da 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 da, dee da da da. So I have little hairpins and little U's on beat 3 in those next two measures. And then in 15, ba da 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 da, dee da da deem. So I have an X on that G, and I'm just going to sustain nice and strong through that G. Scaling back to the mezzo forte there at the double bar. So again, it's a similar pattern, right? So we have these X's on these half notes on beat 2 that have accents, and then I'm going to scale back on that one. So bum bum beam up to the F, then pick up to 21, and I'm going to keep this one out in big bum beam. So this next mezzo piano is really cool and really effective. I'm going to beat 3 here. Next step up in the sequence, so a little louder, even more here, and then finishing off, to there, and that continues to the very last note of the piece. So I know that was a lot to take in, but you can look at the music here and see where all of those X's are. There's quite a lot, and again, marked in pen, wouldn't normally do that, just wanted to do it so it was nice and visible for you guys looking on the screens. Okay, let's talk about, I have various alternate fingerings marked here. I have some forked Fs, I'm using some forked Fs and some left Fs. It's up to you, whichever is more comfortable. In this noodly stuff, there we go. The forked F works a little bit better for me there, but someplace like measure 7, I'm going to use my left F because it's a stronger note there, but you've got to use an alternate because we're going to the E flat, so you can kind of see where I've got my alternate fingerings marked in. Now, some things that will help with all of these triplets in this technique, you'll see in the first measure, I've got B, da da dee, da da dee. I have these sort of like arcing arrows, and that is to tell me that I want to think of the second 2 notes of every triplet as pickups to the first note of the next. So if I take that out of context, it's helping me blow my air really strongly through that shape. And that's going to help my fingers stay under control. There we go. So I blew a little bit more through those forked Fs. Forked Fs are not my best friend, but if I blow enough air through them, they're a lot cleaner. Now, you'll also see I have some of these arcing arrows at the end of measure 2, at the other end of measure 6, and those are, again, it's my brain. It's an air indication, like I gotta blow more air through the ends of these notes to the next downbeat, otherwise my fingers are not gonna do what I want them to do. Let's see. Okay, you'll also notice, look in the first couple of measures, actually look on the first of every group of 2 of the triplets, I have a tenuto marked. This is a little bit of a similar thing, right? I'm trying to find ways to blow through this and lean in with my air, so I'm ultimately keeping my notes nice and even and under control. So those are little tenuto markings, so I'm thinking of like little extra rosin on the bow, so if I were to bow this like a string player, and that's going to help me keep things nice and even and blow some really good air through all of these very, very fast notes. All right, looking ahead, you'll see I have a breathing plan. Those eighth rests go by really, really fast, so whatever you're going to do for your breaths, they have to be very small. So you can't take big, ginormous breaths. You have to make them very quick, and you need to try to play the note that comes before the breath full value. So no cheating there to take a bigger breath. So do some practicing with just some small sips in and quick releases of pressure for your out breaths. Let me look through here. Articulation, right? So we've got these slurred triplets, then we have staccato eighth notes, and then we have a lot of these heavy accents. Many of them are coming on beats 2 and 3. So those I'm thinking of just, okay, that's the beginning of measure 3, just detached, separated, and kind of light. And then on beat 2, much heavier tongue and air accent as well. So I've got air and tongue working together. To try to make a difference between those articulations, and we see that pop up many times. I am looking through, I think that's what I've got. You can see a lot of it indicated in the music. To work on the technique and the evenness of these triplets, you can try playing around with the rhythm a little bit. So something that would help with those arcing arrows that I described a minute ago. So I kind of changed it into an 8/2 16ths to highlight ba dee da deem da da deem, and then you could even do the opposite. Just finding different ways to tweak the rhythm. In a lot of ways makes it a little more complicated than the original version. And then when you come back to as written, sometimes it almost seems a little bit easier. So it's a good way to work the sections and then to kind of trick the brain into like, oh, what's on the page is actually not so bad, when it is kind of, it's kind of crazy. In a good way, it's fun. It's very fast. It's very fast. Pay close attention to the dynamics. Don't be afraid to add in more dynamics. Never be afraid to be more creative than what is on the page. And I think I'll leave you, I'm gonna try to play it one more time, but I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm actually gonna take my tempo down, because I know I can play it cleaner and more musically than I did the first time. So I'm inclined to do 160. I'm actually gonna go to 152, and I'm gonna play it here. And you can even compare, like the first time I did it with this one. And yes, it's a little bit slower, but hopefully I can do a better job of keeping track of everything and playing it a little bit better this time. So here's the Vivace once again, and again I'm taking the tempo down just a little bit to 152.